You enjoy driving fast, so you buy a sports car, you prep it for the racetrack, you bring it out for your first track day event, and you're the slowest guy in your group. I'm going to tell you why and how to fix this so you can shave seconds off your lap times. Street driving is very different from track driving. As a matter of fact, arguably the opposite. On track, you have to look way ahead, watch the flags, be smooth in your inputs, versus street driving where you are sitting frustrated in traffic, looking at the rear bumper of the car in front. Vision, smooth inputs, flags, general track awareness are all overwhelming and equally important, but the main problem I see with most of my novice and even intermediate students is braking. It is very important that in your big deceleration zones you are braking as late as possible, but with the highest pressure, so you can use 100% of your tire's grip. Here is a graph showing brake pressure versus distance for a novice and an advanced driver. A novice driver will start their braking sooner, but with less pressure, versus an advanced driver who starts their braking later, with more pressure. The brake release point is similar, which happens right before the turning point, but as an outcome, the advanced driver in this particular case was 0.2 seconds faster than the novice driver just from that braking zone alone. Not braking with enough pressure will affect not just the deceleration potential of your car, but your weight transfer as well. Your car will turn much quicker and easier if the front suspension is loaded, so that the tires can have the proper amount of grip to withstand the cornering force required to complete the turn as fast as possible. Cars will have two types of braking systems: the traditional system, the non-ABS system, and the anti-lock braking system, also known as the ABS system. The traditional system will typically allow you to utilize more tire grip by producing a higher slippage. For example, if you are traveling at 100 miles an hour, but your tires are rotating at 95 miles an hour, it means you have a 5% slippage. This process is also known as under rotation. Under rotation gives us the most deceleration that we can extract from the tire itself, and it is most dependent on the tire compound. With the traditional system, you have to be very careful not to lock your tires up. Once your tires are locked up, you will not be able to steer the car. The ABS system causes the wheel to release at the moment it is about to lock up, therefore never actually locking up your tires. But from the performance standpoint, you may not be able to extract the full potential from your tires due to the slightly lesser under rotation potential. Threshold braking is the ability to slow down the tire to the point where you are about to lock up or activate the ABS system. Therefore, you are extracting the highest percentage of slippage possible for that particular tire compound. Here is a quick comparison of threshold braking with a traditional system, an ABS system, and a point-blank lockup. As you can see, you will be able to slow down your car in the shortest distance by using a traditional non-ABS system, but at the cost of potentially locking up. The threshold limit with ABS is slightly reduced, but you don't have to worry about locking up, destroying your tires, or potentially running off the track. When you lock up, your deceleration potential is significantly reduced. In this next graph, I will explain the pressure trace versus distance, and we're going to introduce 4 braking phases. One very important thing to avoid is cruising. When you are not accelerating, you are braking, and vice versa. Once you approach your braking zone, lift the foot off the throttle and place it immediately on the brake pedal to start braking. A lot of novice drivers release the brake pedal too slowly, which is most likely a habit from street driving. Just release as fast as possible. The blue line actually represents the throttle pedal. When you are approaching your braking zone, you want to release the throttle immediately and transition your foot onto the brake pedal. The next phase is to squeeze the pedal, but do not slam on it, because you will most likely lock up or activate the ABS. The third phase is where you modulate the brake pressure to keep the tires from locking up or triggering the ABS, but produce the most under rotation available from the tires. Keep in mind, you will not always need to modulate. It depends on your brake pad compound and rotor selection. Also, you might get it right when you start mastering a particular turn. What I'm saying is, don't specifically focus on this phase and ignore the rest. This phase is the hardest to master. The last phase is where we release the brake. Initially, we release it faster while we are on a straight line, but then as we start turning, we complete the release smoothly in order to properly transfer the weight from the front, side, and eventually the rear of the car. We talked about lockup being such a negative outcome, and indeed it is. But how do we prevent it? And even better, how do we practice threshold braking and become better at it? The safest way to practice is to pick a slow turn on track followed by a long straight. They typically have either gravel traps and a lot of runoff, or even both. If you have manual transmission car, do not worry about shifting at first. Stay in a slightly higher gear and focus on braking practice, then later on introduce shifting, which needs to happen in the braking zone before the turning point. Set your braking point relatively early and keep on practicing the pressure application until you arrive at the turning point with the proper speed to take the turn successfully without running out of pavement at the exit of the turn. Do not release the brake early, then apply it again once you notice you are slowing down too fast. Slowing down too fast is actually a very good thing. It means you completed the first two braking phases successfully. You just managed to slow down the car faster than you expected. So now move up the braking point by a few car lengths and try your best to be consistent even though you are now approaching your turning point slightly faster. The goal here is to get used to the proper initial brake input as well as applying continuous pressure until you achieve the maximum under rotation before lockup. If your ABS continues to activate at the end of your braking zone or you are experiencing a slight lockup, it is now time to work on phase 3, which is to start modulating the brake pedal until you don't lock up anymore. Once you achieve this, it's time for the last phase, which is releasing the brake pedal. Release it gradually as you are applying steering input, look at the apex, and turn where your vision is. To visually demonstrate this technique, here is a video of me threshold braking in our minivan, which is equipped with an automatic transmission. I will slow the video down to point out the 4 phases we talked about earlier. Full acceleration, immediate transition to braking, smooth initial input with gradually applying pressure, modulation to prevent ABS or lockup, if needed of course, release and turn it. This is me threshold braking in my race car. It's more complex because it's equipped with a manual transmission, so I have to downshift, but the principles are the same. Full acceleration, immediate transition to braking, smooth initial input with gradually applying pressure, heel-toe downshifting to rev match in this particular case. Watch your speed and don't downshift too early because you'll spike your RPM past the rev limit. Modulation to prevent ABS or lockup if needed of course. Release and turn it. Let's take a quick look at the telemetry. I am using an AIM Solo data logger, but any similar loggers would work. This logger is a budget one that has a very good GPS refresh rate and I personally recommend it. I'm going to move to my PC now so we can pull the data and analyze it. This data represents speed versus distance and it is from one of my recent endurance races at Virginia International Raceway. Turn 1 on lap 12 versus turn 1 on lap 14. Same car, same driver, just about 3 minutes apart. The blue lap starts with a half a mile per hour higher on the front straight, but I end up making a couple of mistakes. Let's point them out. First mistake was that it took me too long to transition my foot from acceleration to braking. You can see this arc up top is much bigger on the blue lap versus the red lap. My second mistake is the deceleration rate being lower, which tells me I didn't apply the proper pressure on the brake pedal, and I can prove that to you by looking at the longitudinal Gs. On my red lap, I pulled 0.2 extra Gs just by braking better. Down here at the bottom of the screen is the time difference between the 2 laps. The red lap being the reference lap because it's the fastest one. The blue lap was faster till about halfway through the braking zone. Because of the cruising and the improper brake pressure, the red lap took the lead and maintained that lead until the next turn. Due to my mistakes, I lost 1.5 tenths just in that braking zone alone. In endurance racing it's not as impactful, but on a qualifying lap it is. So these are just very quick and easy ways to assess your own data so you can continue progression. Once you get better at braking, don't just stop there. As soon as you become a solo driver, it will be very hard to progress without telemetry, because you can't tell if you're doing great or just okay. I highly recommend getting a data logger and continue evaluating your driving as well as compare your data with other drivers in similar cars. It is not a bad idea to grab a seasoned instructor or a fellow driver for a ride every once in a while. There might be something basic and obvious that you are doing wrong, but you just fail to notice because you're focusing on more advanced techniques. I would like to hear your feedback in the comment section or our Discord channel. And if you want to find out why pro and advanced drivers are so much faster in turns, check out this video about trail braking. Bye!